Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Good morning and welcome to our Friday's edition of Enterprise Morning. It's that day finally that ushers in the first day of the last month of 2024. Who doesn't like Fridays, by the way? That's of course because Fridays are the last work days of the week, except for us on this side of the conversation. It is our responsibility, of course, just like you know, to bring you trendy and breaking news stories as they happen. My name is Henry Igbo, and without much ado for nothing, let's go to our newspaper reports review for today. And with me is Cyril Abaku. Mr. Cyril, you're welcome to Enterprise Morning.
My pleasure.
How was your night?
It was good.
Good, awesome. So let's go to our newspaper reviews. And first, we have on Daily Independent, Lagos demolition. Ohanaeze insists state government must compensate victims. That is on Daily Independent's big story for today. And also still on Daily Independent, we have issues. That's orders for the state LG police. Afenifere tells Tinubu. But without much ado, let's go straight to discussing and having our conversation on the big story on Daily Independent. And Mr. Cyril, the first question is, do you really think that the demolition in Lagos is ethnocentric? And if it is, do you think that victims ought to be compensated?
Well, in my very honest view, the matter of demolitions is one matter that continues to divide opinion. Some persons have been very bold and vocal in saying that this is purely ethnocentric. But from the government point of view, I mean, it couldn't be farther from the truth. But let's look at the merit of the matter. If people came in around you, I mean, they could be Igbo, they could be outside, they could be anybody. People don't just wake up to build structures because they want to build those structures. Government is aware.
Yeah.
And so, if at any time they got a permit to build, I mean, if you build shops and stuff like that, the local government council comes around to take levies.
Yes.
So permit was given. If by any means government was aware that people were doing business in that area, and they wanted to either relocate them or they woke up to realize that the siting of those stores didn't match their urban planning vision or something like that, I think it's important to sit down and say this is what we want to do in light of our plan to renew our city, and then so even that word compensation isn't just about money. Shouldn't just be about. It should be about how do we relocate your business, how do we make sure that our plan to make the city better does not come at the cost of your livelihood. I think that's the main conversation. It shouldn't just be we're going to give you 10 billion naira because we took your shops. For me, that doesn't cut it like a government policy. It just looks to me like buying and selling. But if government wants to really renew or renovate or reimagine its urban landscape, there should be a conversation around that. Those who have said that this looks like an ethnocentric agenda are those who feel that, okay, you demolition houses in places like Ajawa Estate, Alaba Market. It's not like a statewide program.
Yeah, exactly.
To say, I mean, if you wanted to do that, how many houses will remain in Lagos?
Exactly.
So I mean, where you choose
a particular place
where you choose to focus on tells us what your skill of preference is, what your priorities are. So in that way, some people may say, okay, you're focusing on Igbo-dominated areas. It appears you have it in mind to, so that's for me is the issue. It shouldn't just, compensation of course should be in the compensation. It shouldn't just be a blanket demolition. And again, I feel like you're not just this. I mean, so if you're demolishing structures, these are not inanimate objects. we all know the cost of the value of real estate in Lagos.
Exactly.
So people have spent, if someone has spent millions, perhaps even billions to build houses, put furniture in them, there's a value to it.
And possibly must have lived in it for quite some time.
And then, on the back of it, this is somebody's livelihood. That's his guarantee, or a guarantee for the next meal, for training children. So if you take that away, it's just about the demolished houses or the possibility of the fact that they have destroyed lives. As because somebody standing in one place and seeing what has labored for 10-20 years go down could become depressed, and you never know how far people take such thoughts sometimes. So it's not just about houses are coming up; it's about people's lives are being the policy on subsidy. People have gone from wealth to poverty overnight. So when you take somebody's investment and bring it to rubble, what do you think you've done to the person? You've reduced that person's capacity. So we need to put all of that in the picture. There's a very strong human face to it. It's not just about the demolished houses. And so then what happened? In Nazi Germany, when Hitler began his the Holocaust, Jewish lawyers couldn't practice, Jewish doctors couldn't practice, Jewish shops couldn't open. So you just come and then the airline maybe goes and says they have stopped business from operating. It's not just that. When business stops operating, what happens? People lose so people die, they can't get treatment, they can't sew clothes, people become homeless, people begin to starve. That's the human side of it. So how can we operate as a society, as government, to make sure that our plan for urban renewal does not become the reason why people are getting poorer, people are dying? That I think should be the real discussion.
But do you think the government of Lagos does understand the economic gravity of their policies? Because either we like it or not, it's going to affect on direct investment. Even if, I guess, apart from local investment, it's equally going to give a bit of a picture to foreign direct investment. Do you think the government understands the gravity of what they are doing?
No, so I think that the world has sort of evolved in the sense that before now, this sort of news of demolition, for example, may travel to China after a month that it had happened, and they'll say, oh, and then they never know what version of the story that they hear. They may be that they are saying all foreign businesses. In fact, it may be reported as xenophobia in China, for example. But what I personally think and see is Lagos State is widely acknowledged as the commercial nerve center of West Africa. So they more than understand the implications of this sort of action that they're taking. Now, I am refraining from taking this argument from a tribalistic point of view entirely. But we remember that after the elections were won and lost this year, the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, a man of no less the weight of the Speaker, did say that they were going to take back Lagos. That we are going to take back the land of Lagos from non-indigenous.
Yes.
So, and then after that, we began to see
a spiral of some of these things.
So I'm not making this up. You can read it. It's all there.
It's open to me.
Yes. But so if we were to even follow that discussion now, the Lagos State government, Henry, the question is, because it's Lagos, it's in the news, it's being talked about. But the Igbo also have their own states. You have Ebonyi, Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Abia. Maybe in a sense, at the risk of offending people, some parts of Delta perhaps. Igbo people are very prominent in Rivers State. They are doing business there in all these places. What does it take for them to look inwards and try to revamp or position themselves as an economic nerve center, not just of Nigeria but of the world?
But you would agree with me that would not be feasible, knowing that Lagos itself is the gate route, is the entry point of everything that comes into Nigeria. If it's possible for them to develop their region, it would have been possible if there were equally a gateway from the outside world into that particular region.
So for example, it will take strategic. So, and again, Governor Peter Mbash, he's shown a lot of charisma and energy in Enugu, for example. So, Ludo, I mean, some of us would have expected that he would have been faster than he's going.
Exactly.
But and then again, so all eyes are on the man in Abia now. Let me tell you, the Igbo are at a more vantage point in all of Nigeria's history now than they ever were, because the man in Abia too is a visionary. Alex Oti. What must happen is that there must now be a systematic, well thought out strategic plan. You have the airport in the Academy airport that can be turned into, that can become a hub. Governor Omai of built a world class airport in Abakaliki. That should count for something. You have so what is required is vision. What is required
and discipline and the right leadership discipline.
Determination to get this thing done. Until that is done, you see, whenever I'm sorry, but whenever I hear stories of Igbo dispossession, you know what I mean by that? When they're taking back their shops, taking their lands, they've gone to Alaba, they've done this and that. I often look, what comes to mind now, the documentaries I watched of Adolf Hitler, how they were flogging Jews on the streets and they were running helter-skelter. There was nobody to plead their cause. Can the Igbo begin to think differently? Lagos is not the only place to. I mean, this is without prejudice to the fact that where this demolition has been wrong, that justice must also speak. But can the Igbo begin to think outside the box? You are not bound by any geography. They should be able to think outside the box. Look, in fact, in Nigeria we can make more money from trade tourism. The way the Igbos are in Vietnam, they're in Micronesia, I believe they're in Holland, they're everywhere in the world. Can people look at them and say, this trading tribe,
is it possible to
let's go and see their own homeland? So it means that the quantum of trade in Igbo land should be higher and bigger and be able to serve as a tourism destination for people who want to travel from. You see, and is it possible? It is absolutely possible. What is likely the leadership that must rise, that can rise up to follow through with it. Or if they're able to do that, I mean, it's what we are waiting to see them do.
Well, that's an interesting one, and we hope it is possible, and the federal might would let that happen. And straight on to the Guardian. We have from the big story there, amid a ravaging scourge, HIV cure, vaccine still elusive, 42 years on. And still on the Guardian, we have reps knock operators over letdown of host communities. And also we have National Assembly begins a debate on 2024 budget despite servicing concerns. Now, Mr. Cyril, it's been 42 years since the pandemic, what was known as the pandemic, HIV, made inroads into the world. And 42 years later, we still haven't found a vaccine for it. And also, I think it's very important we make this. COVID-19 was just, backdoors, just some couple of years back. And in the twinkle of an eye, we had a vaccine for COVID. Why is it then difficult to have a vaccine for HIV that would at least go a long way in taming?
So the conversation is very straightforward, Henry. HIV is not a trouble for the West.
Okay.
Or let's say it's not a trouble for America or our Western allies, where typically the funding for research, would have been more solvent, would have been, they're more buoyant in being able to fund the research and look for the solution to the problem. But it began in the US. They were able to face it and, well, let's wipe it out.
Okay.
And then it came to Africa and became endemic in Africa. And because our leaders lack the vision, our leaders lack the capacity, our leaders lack the discipline and determination to deal with these sort of issues, I can tell you that the rate of HIV spread, let's even leave Nigeria, let's even talk, okay, Lagos is particularly
at the front, but okay.
In trouble. But Lagos and Rivers, believe me, and there has been, I know that Lagos and Rivers, if you know the level of spread, you shudder to even shake hands with people on the road. If only you knew the level of entrenchment I can tell you that if you went, if to even check kinds of people, you'll be worried of it. That's how terrible, that's how badly and deeply. But you see, the problem is, for me, it doesn't make me sad.
Why?
Leadership for me is a verb, it's not a noun. Leaders are made in crisis. They are not made in
situations where things are
times. Yes. Yeah. So these are the chances that give leaders room to rise up to the challenge and to prove why they are there. But if they are not paying attention to HIV is killing people on a massive scale, like a genocide. You have malaria doing the same thing. Tuberculosis is also taking it to diabetes. But the question is it that when our leaders wake up and think of these things, it doesn't.
When you say leaders, are you referring to international leaders, or you speaking to our local?
African leaders.
Okay.
Presidents.
Okay.
Who ought to take the lead? Who ought to wake up to the challenges? I remember I was very young in 1990, God knows when. They met in Abuja, and they call it Abuja Accord or Abuja Treat Abuja Roundtable. African leaders were gathering to fight mosquitoes. African presidents came together to fight malaria.
Because of course it was an endemic at the point, and they felt it was a more pressing issue.
And have they fought it? Has the female and African mosquito now fled because African presidents gathered over it? They've not. It has not. So the matter is simple and straightforward. Until we summon the courage, the capacity, the character that leadership demands to deal with these problems, you are appointing people who are your cousins in-law to fill up critical organs of state, to become DGs, and you expect them to be able to deliver on even today. Look at the president's cabinet. How many core experts are manning core positions?
Exactly.
So if somebody will come into office and use 1 year to learn the ropes, something is fundamentally wrong with the way we've organized ourselves. Until we fix it, these problems are symptoms. They are not. They are symptoms of the main issue. Once we can deal with the core problems, the symptoms will walk away.
I know you might not be an expert in this, but what do you think is the role of herbal, local herbal?
No, please.
Medicine.
Standard. A former minister of health tried it in the 80s and almost lost his job. It's a no-no. It's a no-no. It lacks a definition. If those who use it and say that they are cured, I can't fault it because it's testimonial. But I can tell you, we cannot sit here and sign off and say use the way or any of those things. I can't.
Okay, well, so well. So let's go to our last newspaper daily for today, and that's Daily Trust. And on our headline for today, we have how to get 2024 budget right, Economist. And also under that headline news, we have Navy arrest 2 ships crew for illegal fishing. And also still on the Daily Trust, we have a Nigerian, it's a very comical one actually, a Nigerian nurse in the UK was sacked and deported over prayer for dying patient. That's actually a very funny one. Now let's, if you don't mind, can we just start with that before we go into the big story on Daily Trust?
There was even a UK doctor who had worked in either Uganda, Botswana, one of these countries, or Zimbabwe, maybe in one of these aid or missionary and came back to the UK to practice. And he saw the young man was dying. And he preached or something and prayed for him. And the doctor that suspended or sacked the doctor. Yes. No, it's fine. Medicine is science. Yeah. And they do everything they can to separate science from faith.
From faith.
Their laws have got to that point that they say you don't cross the line. As a matter of fact, even in Nigeria, in the practice of medicine, there's this thing that when they anesthetize someone, the person becomes unconscious and could begin to say things that are in the person's head. The person may begin, typically they start, the person who is so anesthetic begins to speak about things that the person did last, or and then go. But they will tell you that even if the person is confessed to have killed anybody using the power of witchcraft, as doctors, they don't believe, they feel that you've lost your mind and you're just saying things randomly.
Yeah.
Now, the nurse was being kind.
Do you think that is being kind?
She was in Nigerian cell. The Nigerians love prayer.
Oh,
the Nigerians love prayer.
Yeah.
But you don't cross the line. You don't ever cross the line. I have it. And again, you need to know how Nigeria. See, there was a Nigerian engineer got a job in Nigeria here, working for a foreign oil servicing company. He was working on a project and the thing he did and he kept on trying and it wasn't working. So he met his boss and said, "Hey boss, maybe God doesn't want this thing to work." The wife said, "What do you mean? Come here, go and try it again."
Yeah.
And
It worked. And it worked. So the question is, how do we? I know it's a very long call, but do you think it's ever possible to decipher our religious faith from scientific reality in Nigeria and how it works?
It's very easy. And it's something we do on an ongoing basis. Listen. So when we talk about faith, faith has thresholds.
Okay.
You know, they talk about, Jesus said, even if your faith is as small as a mustard seed. So there's mustard seed faith. Faith is in thresholds. Ideally, where faith was in operation, the result should have happened. You get what I mean? When they brought 5 loaves of bread and fish to Jesus and said, "Feed the multitude," it multiplied. Henry, so if you are not, if you've not tried it in the secret and it worked, don't bring it to the open. But the reality is that faith does work. But you've not reached the level where you're sure that it's going to work. If not reached that level, don't even try it. That's the way it works for me. Then don't make faith the first thing you bring to the table at the place of work. Be competent and do your job. If it's not working, it's not working. Sometimes if they've seen that faith operate in a personal level, they say that thing will so happen to you.
Is there a scientific explanation to it?
Can you bring it to the larger table? You've done everything and it's not working. Can you say, okay, since you are the one inviting me to come and try it, it now works. But if you've not mastered it to that point, don't make the mistake of trying. Don't make the mistake of trying. And faith doesn't work only when you pray. Okay? There has got a way by which they've noticed that anybody who comes around you just has to have the way of mysteriously getting well when all the odds show that the person should survive. Come, is there something else to what you're doing? So those are the avenues. You don't try to say I'm going to pray for. I mean, you don't do that. So I don't blame them for sacking her.
Well, we'll leave it at that, and if it's possible, there's a kind appeal to the UK facility. Hey, this is Africa. This is who we are, and she actually doesn't mean it. We'd love to say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Cyril Abaku, for being part of our morning enterprise morning today. I want to thank you, and that's all we have for our newspaper segment this morning. And when we come back, police in Ogun State suspect insider involvement in the murder of the government house accountant. We'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.